I thought of just skipping July when work and garden demands overwhelmed me. But this year I have a content calendar with everything planned out. The August episode is timely for harvest time, so I don't want to just push it to September. So, what's been happening in my neck of the prairie? It's rain and hail. We are in a pocket of the prairies that has been getting more rain than normal and has been causing some problems. It's good for anyone that has irrigation water rations, but it also makes irrigation decisions tougher. So just this weekend, the forecast went from 25 millimeters of rain to 15 millimeters to 0, and then we got 45 millimeters. Small areas got lots, and some areas got nearly nothing. Also, I had to go assess hailed fields again. This was the second time having to do this. My little drone is useful for checking to see if there are areas that got hit harder than the rest. Now, this will eventually show up in satellite images, but there has been a problem with them this year, and it's clouds. It has been so rainy that I have missed entire weeks with daily imagery capture. So 2 sunny days in a row, there was white puffy clouds that showed up midday and they photobombed all the fields. It's not just the clouds that cause the problem, it's also the shadows that they cast. Now, add on to this that my gardens are exploding in growth from the rain, and I have short windows to get out and do something, so the podcast kept getting pushed off. Anyways, it's finally here, and hopefully the next one will be not long after. So let me introduce myself. My name is Scott Gillespie, and I'm an author and independent agronomist rooted in the Canadian prairies, focusing on climate-smart agriculture. So I share science-based practices that benefit the planet while contributing to the profitability and resiliency of those who farm it. So this podcast that you're listening to or watching right now is also available as an email newsletter and a LinkedIn newsletter. Everything is identical in all formats. The only one that has a little bit extra is the YouTube video, where I put a little bit of drone footage from scouting at the end of it. So testing new practices. Last month, I mentioned how I had tested out organic weed control principles that I've been learning after many years of working with organic growers. I also shared my top resources for science-based and grower-tested ways to combat weeds. The big drawback that I mentioned was losing soil moisture from all of the tillage. Of course, that's not a big problem now because my garden is actually very wet. This month, I learned another drawback, and that is cats. I really enjoy having neighborhood cats in my gardens. For the most part, they're a great addition. A few of them are friendly and they like to come and talk with me. Many are here for just a quick hit of catnip. One in particular seems to spend more time with me than she does with the neighbor who feeds her. I have seen her catch mice along the fruit bushes before, and I'm sure the constant scenting of plants and soil helps to deter the mice as well, because they really have not been a problem for me. There's just one thing I don't like. They like to dig in the vegetable garden for pooping. I've tried a motion sensor sprinkler. It works well, but as soon as it's off, they just ignore it. So one morning I came out to see fresh poop directly in front of it. I've tried chili flakes and even a commercial pepper deterrent, and I think this works a little bit, but there's one that just really likes to dig. For seedlings, I have chicken wire tunnels. They look like lobster traps with no bottoms. However, once the seedlings get too big, then I have to take them off. If anyone has suggestions, please let me know. This ties in well with the article that I was interviewed for and was published late last month. I'll be highlighting it in the next section. I'll also highlight an article that was written about my book, Practical Regeneration. My book expands upon a lot of what I mentioned in the article. There are so many great ideas out there, but do they actually work? Now, just as a note, there's no new article of mine from Better Farming Prairies this month because they switched to bi-monthly over the summer. So the first article I want to highlight is called Agronomists Share Tips for Evaluating New Crop Products and Tech, Part 2. And while I wish there was a flashier headline for this, it highlights the growing challenges for agronomists like me, sorting through a flood of new products, practices, and technologies in agriculture, and figuring out what actually works. With fewer government researchers and more pressure on farmers to get return on rising input costs, reliable, independent information matters more than ever. In the piece, I share how I rely on third-party research, especially field-scale trials from applied research and commodity groups across Western Canada, before making recommendations. I also talk about the difficulty of evaluating new practices that require expensive equipment, like strip tillage or precision planters, and how I sometimes have to look to well-established US data to assess their potential fit for here in southern Alberta. I also spoke about my cautious but hopeful use of AI tools like ChatGPT to sort through and synthesize research, saving time and helping to identify sources that are worth digging into further. When it first hit the headlines a few years ago, it would make up things and it had no sources, and sometimes it even made up sources. But now it can give links to references, and I've even found that I can challenge it on things and it will look again. In many ways, it's like a human. We all make mistakes and don't ever have perfect information. But through careful evaluation, we can learn from each other. So check out the full article to see how I and the other independent agronomists are helping farmers to navigate a landscape that's full of bold claims, tight budgets, and constant change. The second article that featured me was Book Sees Both Sides of Regenerative Agriculture. This article highlights the motivations behind my book, Practical Regeneration, including concerns about exaggerated claims and the need for on-farm practices that are both climate smart and economically realistic. We talked about the efficient fertilizer use, evolving tech like precision mapping, and how many prairie farmers are already ahead on sustainability, even if they're not chasing the buzzwords. I also touched on carbon markets, the risks of unproven biologicals, and how small practical changes, like using stripper headers, can add up to real soil health improvements over time. The piece also covers my background from early days growing up on a farm in Ontario to my consulting work across southern Alberta. It's a great intro for anyone curious about my approach to agronomy and regenerative practices. Read the full article to explore more about the book, the philosophy behind it, and how I help farmers make sense of what works and what doesn't. And if you like it, please get a hold of me to buy the book or find a way to order it in your country. Just go to www.plantsdigsoil.com/books. And now to some related reading. I'll finish with some articles that I've come across that fit this theme of testing new practices. Farmers and agronomists are inundated with new ideas all the time. Many of them are from well-meaning people that really want to make a difference. But like I said before, you need to step back and think about whether something is really going to work before barreling ahead. We are seeing now that the Silicon Valley mantra of move fast and break things can work in certain circumstances, but it can't be your modus operandi for every problem. Here's the first article. Rhizophagy and quorum sensing don't fall for the merely fascinating. So here's the opening paragraph. If you've heard of rhizophagy or quorum sensing, it's probably because of regenerative agriculture. The movement has popularized these soil processes through videos, articles, social media influencers, and even a researcher or two painting them as solutions that reduce or eliminate the use of synthetic fertilizers and pesticides. Yes, plants really can get nutrients directly from microbes by rhizophagy. And yes, bacteria really communicate with chemicals to coordinate actions through quorum sensing. However, does this matter for crop production? Let's take a careful look at these processes. Now, if that has piqued your interest, I highly recommend you take the time to read this. I see this time and time again. Researchers discover something new about the way life works, and then they or others think that's the key to a completely new way of doing things. I also notice that there are a certain number of people that want to believe something new is true. They want to feel like they are ahead of the mainstream. Conspiracies can aid their cause when they think the mainstream is trying to shut them down. So, like many things, there is a kernel of truth here. Modern breeding has probably selected for crop varieties that don't rely on these processes as much because the breeding work happens in fields with good fertility and pest controls by their human helpers. The leap in logic is that if breeding work is combined with regenerative practices, we'll be able to eliminate fertilizer and chemical usage. It's an appealing idea, but let's get some greenhouse trials followed by field trials first before just extrapolating from lab bench observations. Second article is The False Climate Solution That Just Won't Die. Now, this article is behind a paywall. I read it somehow when it first came out, and I'm wondering if it was free when it was first published, but now when I try to read it, they want a membership. But anyways, it's still a great article. It goes through the flaws in the Kiss the Ground and Common Ground star-studded documentaries on regenerative agriculture. And for those that are just listening to this, documentaries is in quotes. The people making the film want to believe that it will work, and they have the people that are ready to show it to them. So I cringe when trying to watch these. They're just full of images of what they see wrong in agriculture, showing the absolute worst, and then what they see agriculture could be, showing the absolute best. I like it that some news organizations are seeing behind the slick video and editing splices. And the final article, Roadside Habitat, Boon or Bane for Pollinating Insects. Now here's some science I can really dig into. Roadsides seem like a great place for nature, but are they? In my area, I find it fascinating to see the green strips along the roads that stay greener longer than the rest of the prairies around them. And of course, this year with all the rain, everything is staying greener longer, but these roadsides are very green this year. The reason is that all the water from the road drains into these areas, so every rain is multiplied 2 to 3 times what it would normally get. Now, it's sad seeing them get mowed or hayed each year, but I know they need to clear them for visibility and snow management once winter comes. Now, I'm not a roadside manager, but I think the ideas that are presented here could be used when you're looking for messy areas around fields. Now, there are always areas that are hard to farm. Many times these areas don't make any money. They may even cost money every year. The article is a deep dive, but I think it'd be a great resource for years to come when you're looking at what a farmer has, what the constraints are, and what can economically be done in an area that could benefit the farm. Thanks for your attention. If something resonated with you, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Also, sharing this episode in your social networks, whether a post or to a small group of friends, colleagues, or clients, is very much appreciated. You can also support me by picking up a copy of my book, Practical Regeneration, or reaching out for agronomy support. All of the information can be found on my website, www.plantsdigsoil.com. So here's to growing more, believing less, and always digging a little deeper.